to renew our sacred vow. Never forget. Never forget. We never forget. Each of us, each of those precious lives stolen too soon when evil attacked. Ground Zero in New York. And I remember standing there the next day and looking at the building. I felt like I was looking through the gates of hell. It looked so devastating because from where you could stand.
The next day.
When did Biden actually visit Ground Zero?
He went 9 days after the attack, Brianna, September 20th. 2001, when he went with a bipartisan delegation of senators. Asked the White House last night about this claim. They provided a photo of him there on September 20th, reiterated that he was there that day. I think some people might say, oh, okay, he was there.
It's just days, a matter of days.
9 days later, maybe he forgot, and maybe he forgot. But look, it's 9/11, it's sensitive. He's speaking to military and first responders, so I think the facts matter.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Sleepy Joe Biden, who, for whatever reason, decided not to show up to Ground Zero on the anniversary of 9/11, but instead decided to go to Anchorage, Alaska to give a speech. And during this speech, Biden claimed that he remembers being at Ground Zero the day after 9/11 happened, except there's one problem. Biden was not there the day after. He was actually in Congress.
So I don't think that all of a sudden there has been a conversion of democratic zeal on the part of those who are not often thought of as our allies to resolve with us to fight worldwide terrorism. But I think it's a reflection of the reality that the world has changed in a way that we all are vulnerable. A further reality that no one could have undertaken this very, very well-planned and regretfully well-executed terrorist act without an extensive network, without a place in which to plan it that was within earshot and eyesight of some country, some people who obviously by their inaction at a minimum and their complicity allowed this to occur.
Yeah, so apparently Sleepy Joe forgot the fact that he gave that speech the day after 9/11 in Congress. And he, again, during a speech in Anchorage, Alaska on 9/11, basically lied, okay, and claimed that he was there on Ground Zero the next day. Now, because of how sensitive this event is, this lie is not a small lie, okay? It's kind of a big lie, and this is why the White House is being pressed about this lie.
Why did he say that he was there the next day? Because he wasn't there the next day.
Well, he went about a week or so after the attacks with other members of Congress to see Ground Zero for himself and have a chance to talk and thank the first responders. He just attributed the visit a little earlier in the remarks than what had actually occurred. But he was there. He did go to Ground Zero.
So that was a mistake. He
attributed the visit to a time which was actually turned out to be about a week after the attack.
Okay, Hillary Clinton was there the day after, and she said that it looked like the gates of hell. I cannot imagine anything that looked more like the gates of hell. The president used those same words. Is just a coincidence?
Because it looked like the gates of hell. He described it in the way that he remembered it. It looked like the gates of hell. And I think anybody that saw the images that day would have to agree that that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? Joe Biden apparently plagiarizing Hillary, right? If Vivek Ramaswamy plagiarized Obama, what do you think Joe Biden's doing when he lies about being at Ground Zero the next day, even though he wasn't, and then describes it the same way that Hillary Clinton described it, who was there the next day, right? I don't know, man. Seems to be plagiarism to me. But again, we all know Joe Biden has a history of plagiarism, so this shouldn't be a surprise.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children,
the health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit.
He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that. The great imitator.
You don't steal verbatim, or when you do, as he did 99% of the time, you give credit.
Biden's critics say he sells himself as a man whose words and visions can inspire a new generation in politics. But if the thoughts, phrases, and visions really belong to others, it's a form of false advertising.
Is it a wise idea, though, to take something that personal, anyway, from another politician and try and appropriate it to your own campaign?
I think it was a stupid thing to appropriate material that was really very personal, that was someone else's.
Most people didn't know who he was, you know, Joe Biden, and now they're going to say, oh yeah, he's the guy who plagiarized. That's
a lot of people.
Politically, that's devastating.
If they're going to do things that are stupid as well as immoral, then they're probably too dumb to have the job of president.
Yeah. I think that guy was spot on, okay? Biden's too stupid to have the job of president, okay? However, in 2020, allegedly, there's a ton of people, 70 million people, 80 million, however many people, right, saw it differently, right? They say Biden is a smart man for the job, right? And look at the result, okay? But anyways, Biden's lies, or his history of lying, is so outrageous and so out of control that even the liberal media, CNN, is calling out Biden and exposing his laundry list of lies.
And he has done, I don't know if it's similar things, but he's sort of told some stories that don't line up quite like this before.
Yeah, this president has a pattern at this point of either inventing or embellishing stories about his own past, his biography. He did it 3 times in one speech last month alone. He claimed he had witnessed a bridge collapse in Pittsburgh when he actually showed up about 6 hours later. He claimed that his grandfather had died just days before he was born himself at the same hospital. In fact, his grandpa died more than a year before in a different state, not the same hospital. And he also repeated a favorite false story that I and others have debunked over and over again about a supposed conversation with an Amtrak train conductor he was friends with, who was actually deceased at the time the conversation would have had to take place. And that's not all. There are some more serious ones in my view. Previously in his presidency, he claimed at one point he'd been arrested during a civil rights protest when, in other versions of the story, he just said an officer had taken him home from a protest. He said he had visited the Pittsburgh synagogue where worshippers were killed in a 2018 mass shooting. In fact, he had actually spoken to the rabbi, but never went. And he's made a whole bunch of others too. He said at one point, Republicans like to bring this up, he said that he used to drive a tractor trailer, he used to drive an 18-wheeler. Never happened. The White House later clarified he used to drive a school bus at one point as a job briefly. School bus, of course, not an 18-wheeler. So whatever his intentions, whether it's, foggy memory about stuff that's going on decades ago or deliberate embellishment, this is an unfortunate pattern that keeps coming up again and again with Joe Biden.
Damn. Yo, that was brutal. Holy wow. That was brutal. Yo, the only thing they left out is Joe Biden talking about how Beau Biden died in Iraq. Okay, basically trying to make it seem like his son died in the line of duty, and that's just not true. Okay, Joe Biden has gotten that wrong so many times. Okay. Yeah, I mean, CNN, you had to throw that one in there, right? You had to throw that in there. Joe Biden using his dead son as a political tool, right? Which he does quite a bit. He does quite often. But again, this is the network that platformed the Democrat, Dan Goldman, who is trying to use Joe Biden's son as a political tool in order to distract from the fact that Joe Biden was obviously talking with Hunter Biden and his business associates about Hunter Biden's business deals while Hunter Biden was selling out the American people on behalf of his father overseas, right? He tried to make it seem like Joe Biden is the weatherman, right? Joe Biden's the weatherman, and if you're criticizing Joe Biden, you're criticizing him during a time in which he was mourning about his dead son. Again, amazing, right? I think CNN should have called that out as well, too. But with that being said, what you're seeing here, right, from the mainstream liberal media is what happens when, again, they want Biden up out of office, right? They want Biden out of office, okay? If the polls were not as close as they were between Trump and Biden, they wouldn't be doing this, right? They would not have ran this segment calling out Joe Biden for his lies. But what you're seeing here, okay, in regards to Joe Biden and Kamala is that Kamala is already kind of being ushered in, right? I'm telling you guys, I really do believe that there's no way that this guy is going to be the Democrats' nominee going into 20. It's just not, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I could be wrong, but you have Kamala Harris, who took Joe Biden's place at the 9/11 ceremony at Ground Zero instead of Joe Biden being there. He skipped the ceremony and sent his vice president as if Kamala is president, right? I think Joe should have been there and you should have sent Kamala to Alaska, right? Whatever the hell was going on there. But no, I think it was done on purpose. They wanted to get Joe out of the spotlight, right? Send Kamala because Kamala is essentially in training, okay? She's the next up. So they send Kamala, right? And they send Joe to Alaska thinking that, okay, well, Joe's in Alaska. We don't have to worry about him getting too much attention, right? He can't screw this up, right? He can't screw anything up being in Alaska, except he did, okay? It seems like it backfired. Because that lie was just so bad that even the mainstream liberal media, CNN, couldn't ignore it, right? They had to cover it. They had to be like, damn, this is a bad lie. This is a terrible lie. And on top of that, look at all these other lies that he tells as well, too. Which, again, you know, hey, who knows? I could get Joe the benefit of the doubt here. He could be so old that he doesn't even realize that he's lying. He doesn't have a great memory anymore. I mean, again, maybe he truly believes this stuff. I'm not sure. Either way, it's pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad that we have a guy that's so old that we have to question whether or not he's lying when he tells these made-up stories. We don't really know because he's so damn old. It's hard to say if he's doing it on purpose, right? Again, this is a problem. This is a huge, huge, huge problem for the Democrats. There's no way they're going to let this man on stage and go off on his rambles the same way that he does in these speeches that, again, nobody's really paying attention to because, the presidential season, in terms of general election season, hasn't started. But once general election season comes around, it's going to be all eyes on Biden all the time, and they're not going to be able to hide him, okay? The same way that they try to hide Biden overseas, okay, when he was in Vietnam, okay, giving that speech after the G20, this guy was essentially stopped, right? He was stopped from answering reporters' questions because it was clear that he was going off the rails, right? Korean Jean-Pierre hit the panic button and said, no, this press conference is over. We're not going to let him keep talking and embarrass us on the world stage. I mean, he already is an embarrassment, but, hey, he was about to embarrass us even more. So I'm just saying, they're not going to be able to do this while Biden's on the campaign trail. They're just not going to be able to do it. Okay, he's going to be in the spotlight all the time, and that's why I just don't think they're going to roll with this guy. There's no way. They cannot roll with this guy going into 2024. They're asking to lose, right? I mean, the more time that moves on, the more convinced I am that if Biden's the Democrats nominee, it's going to be a Trump landslide, right? That's what I'm calling right now. I'm just saying, it's that bad. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.